Mark Williams is also here, but didn't get off to a good start, going down 3-2 to Junhui. And John Higgins is also in Bangkok, looking for a win to boost his confidence. While Irishman Ken Doherty is set to play Stephen Hendry next in Group B. In the opening match of Group B, Marco Fu was in action, but he suffered a whitewash against Atthasit Mahitthi. And Ding Junhui has 2 points in the bag. 2 more would take him through to the semi-finals. Coming next, local hero James Wattana, once ranked 3rd in the world, will need to rediscover that form to overcome John Higgins. They play next. Confirmation of the group standings. Ding Junhui with those 2 points already. Mark Williams struggling, and Higgins and Wattana will get their account underway in the next match. Atthasit Mahitthi got off to the best possible start against Marco Fu. Ken Doherty and Stephen Hendry still to play in Group B. All of this set against the magnificent backdrop of Thailand, the host country for the Euro Asia Challenge, and the action comes from Bangkok. Your commentators are Phil Yates and Mark Johnston-Allen.
A large crowd here at the BEC Terreau Hall, and that is the principal reason. James Wattana, the most popular snooker player in Thai history.
Well, a few people have questioned the popularity of snooker in Thailand over the last few years, Phil, but you see the audience that have turned out tonight to watch this man, and you have to question why, don't you? A packed house here.
Well, in the past, a lot of the events have been played in 5-star hotels, and maybe certain members of the Thai population have felt intimidated by attending tournaments there. This in a sports stadium, and they feel more at home. The question now, who will feel more at home on the green bays? Higgins leads Wattana 4-2 in career meetings. Interestingly though, Wattana beat him 9-4 in the last 32 of the UK Championship last season.
Even though Wattana is not at his very best nowadays, he's still a class act.
Well, showed a considerable improvement in form last season, unlike John Higgins, who went through the entire campaign without lifting a trophy. Hasn't won a tournament, in fact, since the 2002 Irish Masters. Hasn't won a world ranking event since the 2001 British Open. That tournament coincided with the arrival of his baby son Pierce. So as soon as he became a father, he stopped being a winning machine.
Well, he seems slightly more philosophical these days. I spoke to him a couple of times last year and asked him about how he felt having not won a tournament for quite some time, and he was of the opinion, well, there's so many great players out there nowadays that they're very difficult to come by, and sure enough, sooner or later I will win one, but I'm not going to eat myself up over it. He started off last season well. Yeah, it was only an inspirational performance from Mark Williams that stopped him from winning the LG Cup. So it can't all be that bad, can it?
No, I think he's trying to rationalise his feelings, but I can tell you what, having been in numerous press conferences with John Higgins last season, after he's been beaten in a variety of tournaments, I can tell you he was extremely annoyed with himself, frustrated with the game, at his wit's end, trying to work out why suddenly, after winning so many tournaments and being perhaps the most consistent player on the circuit for maybe 5 years, the silverware has dried up.
10.
For whatever reason, Higgins has never acquitted himself well in
17.
Thailand. In fact, he's had some shocking performances.
I
remember one year in the Thailand Open, the World Ranking event, he was beaten in the first round by Carl Burrows, who was well outside the top 100 in the world rankings. Not only beaten, he was whitewashed. But he has won an event in Thailand, if you're talking a team event, the 1996 World Cup. Mind you, he had two pretty good teammates in Stephen Hendry and Alan McManus. The Scotland threesome back then were described as the dream team, and they made everyone else's life a nightmare.
24.
Beat the Republic of Ireland in the final.
He's laughing. He's annoyed with himself. I just think a chap. I got a feeling I know what he's saying. He certainly didn't think that the pink went where it's gone.
Now this underlines the great sportsmanship in snooker. Higgins just told James Wattana what had gone on. Never any doubt in his mind, Wattana, that Higgins was telling the
25.
truth.
He looks absolutely brilliant at the moment, John Higgins.
32.
He's the first to admit that he needs his practice. He needs to work hard at his game to set the very highest level. And it feels as though he's been doing that.
Just slightly underscrewed the cue ball there. I think that's been a common
40.
theme so far in the matches we've witnessed. If a player does try to screw back and misjudges the distance, normally it's on the short side.
$41.
Well, I don't know whether the red nearest the pink goes to the
48.
middle pocket. Even if it hadn't have done, there was still a red available to the balk. This
49.
is mightily encouraging for Higgins.
That's what the top boys are always looking to do, just get that one opportunity and make the most of it, and Higgins is doing exactly that at the moment.
56. $57.
That was loose though. Wanted to be on the other side of the blue. Now no option but to just dab in the blue and leave himself a middle distance pot on the red that is missable.
62. John Higgins, 62.
Right. Impressive, Phil, but he's going to be very annoyed with himself. He didn't finish the frame in that visit.
It's uncanny the amount of times you see players make a break of around that region and then fail to pot what is effectively frame ball.
1.
Plenty of points on the table for Wattana to get back into it. But the red up towards balk, definitely a disadvantage for him.
Seven. Eight.
That was very well judged. Could so easily have gone wrong. He's got the pink in the centre pocket here. Well, the more he was down on the shot, the more I was beginning to think to myself he's going to take this to the corner, and sure enough he did. It was the more difficult pot, but I suppose it's a sign of how confident he's feeling out there. He always used the word
15.
pressure a lot in snooker. And that really does apply to this man, James Wattana, when he's playing in front of his home fans. I was very lucky to play him in the semi-finals of the ranking event back in Thailand some 10 years ago. Absolutely packed house. People who didn't have tickets were peering around the corner. They were everywhere. Phil winning their man on, very intimidating. But it doesn't seem to faze him at all. He seems to love it. He's still a big name out there, isn't he?
Very much so. That was always going to be tough, but I'm surprised he missed it.
22.
You're right though, every time he steps out into an arena in Thailand, he's the man at the centre of attention.
Just very quickly, on that subject, is it true that they once stopped the news for him, or something like that, when he was playing the World Championships over in England a few years back?
I think that is true, yes. In the early 90s he won the World Match Play title, a very big event in England. And a few days later he returned to Bangkok to play in an invitation tournament called the King's Cup. And one of his fellow travellers was an English professional by the name of Nigel Bond. And Nigel
5.
said that it was like going through customs with the Beatles.
Ten. John Higgins, 10.
Wattana's missed red across the top cushion. Looks to have cost him the first frame. Even though Higgins doesn't quite deposit that one. The tie 50 behind, only 35 on the table.
1.
This is a lost cause.
Six.
5 snookers needed, so Wattana sensibly taking the opportunity to knock in a few balls. Unrealistic to think he can make an escape from here.
Eleven.
Scotland 1, Thailand 0. The hometown hero yet to get out of the traps. You know, they call Thailand the land of smiles for obvious reasons. The people here are so friendly. There are not all that many smiles on the faces of the audience at the moment. Even when Wattana was the world number 3 and regularly winning tournaments, his lengthy potting was never all that successful. I think he's got away with that one though, Mark.
He's very fortunate, hasn't he? When you play a shot like that, really you deserve to leave your opponent an opportunity. It makes a heck of a difference if you don't. Higgins there going, trying to get the cue as close to the cushion as possible. He's done a fairly good job. It just makes a safety shot from Wattana now so much more difficult when you see the top of the white. This a difficult shot to judge. It's amazing that even though Wattana's ranking has slipped over the last couple of years, he's still got so much respect from his fellow pros, hasn't he, Phil?
I think one of the reasons why he's so popular with his peers is because he took that decline down the rankings with such good grace. You never heard him complain or moan. He never griped about bad luck or his form. He just got on with the job. Took it on the chin. I think the real low point for Wattana came a couple of years ago when actually he played John Higgins in the first round of the Embassy World Championship at the Crucible. Higgins destroyed him by 10 frames to 1. Since then it's been a gradual rebuilding process, rebuilding his confidence, his cue action and his status within the game. And he's doing a pretty good job. Last season, for the first time in ages, Wattana actually improved his world ranking, albeit by only one place. He's world number 33 at the moment, but at least that slide has been arrested.
To be a 33 in the world, it's such a difficult spot to be in. You know what that means, Phil? A qualifying school, the extra qualifying round, another match that you could lose. And once again, for my money anyway, he's going to have another make-or-break season, really. Season he so desperately needs to get back into the 32. Otherwise you can find yourself just being stuck in a qualifying school year after year, and in the end it gets to you. Well, he's knocking in shots like that.
1.
There's no reason why he cannot beat anybody in the world. That was a great piece of cueing. But that's happened far too often over the last couple of years. That's just careless.
John Higgins stands third on the all-time list of century breakmakers with 298. Only Ronnie O'Sullivan and Stephen Hendry have made more. And last season he compiled 147 breaks in consecutive matches, the first player ever to do so. the final of the LG Cup, which Mark has mentioned,
Partner.
when he was beaten by Mark Williams, and then in his very next tournament at the British Open, in his first round there, he made another maximum against Ireland's Michael Judge.
Nine.
But, no doubt about it, he would swap all of those breaks for another trophy. Cleverly weaving the cue ball in and out of balk there.
15.
We could have had slightly more angle on this blue. He's a touch restricted as to what he can do with the cue ball here. Yes, doesn't look particularly, there you see, perfectly straight. If anything, just a touch the wrong side. He's considering the green. A more difficult pot, but feels that it may give him better position on the colour. Mind you, you really have to work the cue ball. Well, changed his mind again, and now he's going for the brown.
John Higgins.
Tougher pot, but a natural stun shot off two cushions for what would have been ideal position. I think it was the right shot to play. It just wasn't correctly executed.
1.
I've had the privilege to commentate on hundreds of matches around the world over the last decade or so, and I think the best match I've ever been in the commentary box for involved James Wattana right here in Bangkok.
6.
Final of the 1994 Thailand Masters against Steve Davis. On the way to leading 6-2 after the first session, Wattana made 3 big centuries,
13.
looked invincible, but Davis dug in his heels, came back to 8-7. It looked as though we were going to have a deciding frame, but Wattana cleared up with 50 odd to capture the title and spark a national celebration. It's a match I will never ever forget. It had the two things that any snooker classic needs: quality combined with drama.
21.
He doesn't look particularly happy with the result of this split. It looks okay. He did look away in disgust a second or two ago. And the reason being is that he had the bridge
22.
over the other red, but it didn't really cause him that many problems. The position on the colour here isn't ideal. He would have liked to be slightly higher on this blue to come back down towards the 4 reds in the centre of the table. You see the cue ball is going to be taken away from the reds here. So he's faced with a red slightly more difficult than he would have liked. I'd say, Phil, one of the weaknesses James Wattana has
27.
is the shot over distance. He's never been a tremendous long potter. His breakdown has been good on the whole. There's so many
27.
of those shots over the years. I don't know whether there is a technical weakness. You can't afford to miss them, Phil.
Certainly not, and Normally, when a mistake is made like that with Wattana, it's because power's involved in the shot. Not there, though.
1.
That was all about finesse, and now Higgins back in the driver's seat.
Six. 7.
Because of his relative lack of success in recent years, I think
14.
people have forgotten his position in the pecking order. And that's one of the reasons
John
why
Higgins,
he hasn't been
14.
achieving what he did in the mid to late 90s. Just those niggling unforced errors.
One. Nine.
Well, Higgins will be thinking that this frame is slipping away. He doesn't expect to get back to the table. That's not being negative, that's just being realistic.
17.
He'll be hoping that Wattana makes a mistake. Got a slight problem with the red on the right hand side of the table. He played that exceptionally well. He knew full well that he was going to make contact with the red. He didn't have as much angle on the black as I first thought he did. Forced to play the cannon, judged it perfectly. And looking to leave himself an angle after this black just to drop in behind the red.
Yes, because already 24 points ahead, just the black and one more red will be sufficient. Well, if this doesn't go past the blue to the yellow pocket, that really is a terrible shot from Wattana. Well, a great relief, the path was there.
33.
He got away with that one.
Forty. Forty-two. 45.
Just the response he would have wanted.
Yes, and a nice way to win the frame.
49.
Doing so in style. Has the cannon here on the pink, not quite. Maybe an exhibition shot to follow.
54.
The break stops at 54. One misread along the top cushion cost John Higgins dear. They're locked together at 1 frame each.
Fourth frame.
This is the City of
John
Angels.
Higgins to break.
One of its most proud sons is James Wattana, who currently trails John Higgins 2-1. When Wattana won the second frame with a very sharp 54 break, most of the people here assumed he was going to go on and win. Higgins, though, is a very tough nut to crack. And maybe this time the Thai snooker public are going to see the Scot at his best.
You see that Wattana can see a couple of reds, one into each corner pocket, but there really is no value in taking either on. In this kind of situation, you're better off playing the negative safety. Just run for cover, don't do anything attacking, anything stupid. Higgins has played a very good break-off shot, you just need to try and contain him here.
James Wattana went 8 years without lifting a trophy, from the 1995 Thailand Masters to last year's Euro Asia Masters Challenge in Hong Kong. That was a real breakthrough for him, turning back the clock kind of stuff. And then Wattana came here the following week to play in the Bangkok leg of the tournament and failed to reach the semi-finals. He was a group casualty 12 months ago. And if he were to lose his first match here tonight, he'd be struggling for qualification again.
Well, Wattana made the escape and made contact with the red, but certainly not as intended, so I'm pretty sure that Higgins has a chance here. Red to left corner pocket. Another glance over the pack there to get position on the colour.
One.
Okay. Wattana looking on, and already, even though Higgins has just knocked in with one red, Wattana will be thinking to himself, Higgins has got every chance of scoring heavily on this visit.
Higgins burst onto the scene as a teenager in 1994 when he won the Grand Prix.
Eight.
From then until the end of the decade, when he got a scoring chance, it really was a shock to everyone concerned when he didn't make full advantage of it.
Thirteen.
He's won 24
14.
professional tournaments, 15 of them carrying world ranking points.
He's got such a good all-round game, hasn't he, Phil? Yeah, there are very few weaknesses.
20.
Some players you think, well, they can improve here, improve there, but on the whole, Higgins has pretty much got the lot. But for some reason, he hasn't been turning that into results over the last couple of seasons.
21.
Yes, people have been saying it's only a matter of time before he wins titles, but there's no guarantees, you know. No guarantees in sport. Look at the great Open champion Ian Baker Finch.
26.
He started missing a few fairways. People said, oh, he'll be okay. He'll come back. Then they started regularly flying out of bounds. In the end, the Australian had to retire at a very early age. Now, I'm not suggesting that John Higgins is going to spiral in terms of form to quite that extent. But no one can sit here with any certainty and say, oh yes, he'll definitely win again.
32.
His class, his natural ability, his aptitude would suggest he is going to win. But you can't rubber stamp it.
$33.
He's going to have to work hard to get the break going now. He's got the choice. Well, maybe it's not quite so difficult if he plays the red into centre. That's what he's done. Played it well. Always the danger the cue ball could have ended up on that side cushion.
40.
There's enough distance between the cushion and the cue ball for him to be able to control the white. Wattana looking on, and passive as ever.
Yes, and we have to
41.
make the point that this is a very tough group indeed. If Wattana were to lose here, he's still got to face Ding Junhui, the 17-year-old Chinese player, who's a real handful for anyone, and the twice world champion Mark Williams.
Sorry. $44.
Well, unless there's a pack, but clearly he's going to be going into the pack of reds. If you look at the pack, on the left-hand side is where he wants to take the cue ball. Missing the first red, catching the second. Well, there must be a pack after all then, Phil. At the bottom of the cluster, there appears though two reds. They're set into that right corner
51.
pocket. So the first red making contact with the second.
Yes, and he's not the kind of player who takes on low percentage shots.
$52.
Well, I can
John
only
Higgins.
assume the pink ran off there, ran off the true course. I think John Higgins' expression confirms what I've been thinking. Let's just take a look at this slow motion. Might have caught a finger mark, but it definitely went up the table. That wasn't his fault.
Wow.
But the Lord giveth, and the Lord
Johnny
taketh
Higgins.
away.
Yeah.
Well, Mark, it's looking increasingly likely that James Wattana is going to send home this crowd disappointed.
Yeah, up to now he just hasn't had enough firepower. Higgins has been in control, especially in the safety battles. It's one of Higgins' main strengths, I think, that every time his opponent comes to the table in a safety battle, they have to think, they have to work the shot out. He never plays a cheap shot.
More than a touch of desperation there. 56 behind, 67 on, looking for the big shot to open the frame up. He's opened the frame up, but for John Higgins.
One.
And that should be frame and match ball. Higgins now 63 points ahead, only 59 on the table.
7.
If this red goes in, as surely it will, there's no way back for Wattana.
Eight. Fourteen.
Well, I think overall, Phil, Higgins has got to be very pleased with his performance. He's certainly cueing the ball well.
Yes, a couple of half-century breaks. That one missed red along the top cushion in
21.
the second frame, which cost him a
22.
possible 2-0 lead. But that apart, though, I agree with you, Mark. Plenty to be content about, and not so
28.
Wattana.
29. Thirty-five.
The yellow was immaterial, the work had been done. James Wattana pulled back to one frame apiece, but Higgins took the next two, and he wins the match by 3 frames to 1 and leads Group A.
Time now to join the second of the matches in Group B between Stephen Hendry and Ken Doherty. Doherty having the better of the early exchanges. Let's join the commentators, Mark Johnston-Allen and Phil Yates.
4.
Kent has caught the knuckle, he's really imperfect. But he caught the knuckle, the cue ball is finished close to the cushion, and all he can do now is just concentrate on dropping the blue in. Don't worry about the white.
Nine.
both
Defend
players are the
Hendry.
same.
Nine.
Anytime there's even a small degree of difficulty, they look vulnerable.
Yeah, that was a bad shot. A shot that lacked confidence. It wasn't cued particularly well. You saw the white jumping towards the red. Because he didn't really cue through the white. So both players are certainly not 100% at the moment. But just from body
What?
language, Phil, to me it looks that Doherty is far more positive of the two players out there. He looks like he wants to get on with it and at least go for his shots.
He's been successful twice here in Bangkok. He won the 2001 Thailand Masters, his most recent world ranking event success. At the start of last season, he won the Euro-Asia Masters Challenge here, but not playing
Doherty.
snooker like
One.
this. At the moment here we have two world champions playing like a couple of novices.
1.
It compounds itself. Sometimes when you're struggling, you want the other player to play well to try and bring you up. There's nothing worse than two great players struggling. You start to feel slightly embarrassed after a while. Oh, it needs a sensible break. Speaking of sizable break time.
Defend Hendry. 8.
I was just about to say you've got every chance when you've got this man in the match. Incredible break build-up. But he's not there at the moment, Phil. How many centuries does he have in his career now?
639. First on the list. Next best, Ronnie O'Sullivan with 368. Maybe just a little humid out there. The cue feeling a little
One.
sticky. That's why Hendry wiping it down. Well, neither player has covered themselves in glory so far. You get the impression sooner or later, one of them has to start firing.
Do it.
That
Doherty.
is just
7.
such a basic mistake. And this is what you lack when you haven't been practicing. You lack the mental sharpness. When you're playing well and you're on top of your game, you give every shot 100%. But when you're not, you sort of take shots for granted. Both players are doing that at the moment. Well, Hendry's got every opportunity here to play the attacking safety shot. Play into the cluster of reds. Cue ball up behind the bolt colours. A fairly nice split, but you would have liked a little bit more with the white.
Well, a total hash was made of that one. Now, surely someone is going to put together some points.
One. Seven. Penalty. Seven.
Extraordinary. I think it's the worst frame between these two I've ever seen.
There's a combination of things. Quite clearly, both players are not cueing well, and that is affecting their confidence. They're both grabbing at the white. You see the final delivery, the cue should go through the cue ball very smoothly indeed. No judder at the end, but both players, when they're playing with power, they're sort of searching for the top, they're not sure. And in doing so, they're grabbing the cue, affecting the direction, and they're missing the pot.
Yes.
There is no substitute for practice.
Nine.
Well, under normal circumstances, I would say that Hendry was in to win the frame here. But after what's transpired over the last 10 minutes or so, I don't think you can say anything with any
14.
conviction. What we do know is that the scores are now 36 apiece.
15. Atthasit. Mahitthi.
The only awkward ball on the table is the brown. Hendry will need that. And that's not exactly tied up.
Yeah, you'd have thought ahead a couple of shots, wouldn't he, and realised that
24.
green to brown is going to be the key. It depends how he plays it, whether he's just going to leave the cue ball on the cushion for the brown to the centre pocket. If he can do that, it's certainly an easier pot on the brown. I'm not sure whether he's left himself quite enough angle.
Well, to Hendry's advantage, should he pot green and brown, he would be 19 points ahead with 18 on the table.
29.
So doesn't have to think about any complex positional problems. Just knocking the brown and the job will be almost done.
Stephen Hendry. 29.
You know, when you're not 100% game ball is always the most difficult ball by far.
One good shot there and Doherty might well have been able to snatch the frame. At least the brown is run relatively safe. The better force has given Hendry the safety initiative. I think on balance, Hendry deserves to win the frame, just slightly more than his opponent. Both have been guilty of some horrendous mistakes.
Foul. Stephen Hendry, 7.
The 7 penalty points means that Doherty now trails by 22, with 22 on the table. And that's that.
Nine.
A mini flourish
15.
at the end,
Stephen
but
Hendry,
that was
15.
turgid,
And
going on awful. The good news, for Hendry at least, he leads by 1 frame to 0.
Second frame. Ken Doherty, break.
Stephen Hendry leads Ken Doherty 1-0, and both will be looking for radical improvements in form on the first frame. And I tell you what, Doherty was just a millimetre or so away from total embarrassment there. No miscue, and he almost missed the pack completely. Hendry sees the funny side. I don't think Ken would have done. Had he been another fraction to the right.
Well, I was looking for the miscue there, but it looked as though he cued the ball fine. Just completely misjudged the shot. That's incredible. Both players are really struggling that round, man. It makes it all the more embarrassing for when there's a packed house. We've come to see 2 world champions. One of them has won the world championship 7 times. Still, it will get better. I don't know about you, but any match that Hendry wins is always a very special occasion. You're always waiting for something to happen.
Any regular watcher of snooker will be sick and tired with this statistic, but just on the off chance you've just arrived from Mars, I have to say that Mark Johnston-Allen actually leads Stephen Hendry 3-0 in career meetings.
And that is why I retired, Phil. I thought I'll leave it at that. Don't push your luck.
1.
I know he is your favourite player, so don't get bitter about it, but it was all luck.
I've got no favourites, Mark. Journalist, broadcaster, impartiality and all that.
8.
No, I just admire him greatly because of what he's achieved, particularly under pressure.
9.
When he was right at the peak of his powers in the early to mid-90s, when his back was against a wall, his ability to produce his best was unbelievable.
He's very much in the same mould as many other great sportsmen, isn't he?
16.
You know, he's got the hunger, that desire, that must-win attitude. Extremely dedicated.
17.
Well, I well remember the third time you beat him down at the International Open in Bournemouth, and to say he was pig sick would be a complete understatement. He was livid.
24. 25.
Quite often during his career, Hendry's been known for monosyllabic press
32.
conferences. The odd nod, a yes and no in response to a journalist's questions.
33.
Of course he enjoys winning. I think though, it's the hatred of
40.
losing that fuels him even more.
$41.
Well, if that's the case, it's certainly helping him in this range, because this is a far better performance. When he is at his best, you just do
46.
not expect him to miss. He used to put that fear into players, didn't he? You could see as they walked into the arena, even before they'd taken their cue out of the case,
47.
that they were already 3-0 down in the best of 9. Just his presence was enough. He doesn't have quite the same presence nowadays as he got slightly older and slightly more vulnerable.
Yes, he's 35 and nowadays that's considered
52.
a veteran in snooker. Having to impart just a tiny touch of side here.
53. Stephen Hendry,
He
53.
played that with a touch of side as well and badly misjudged it.
Still a 53 must feel like a century after the way he played in the first frame. Now will that liven things up?
What? Eight. Doherty, 8.
It's all the grind for Doherty. Usually such a reliable player.
He looks under pressure as well, a lot of colour in his face as he stood there watching Hendry at the table. Wow. Absolutely miles out with that one. It's all fits and starts, Phil. And no matter how good you are, you know you've got a packed house behind you. They're watching your every move, they're expecting you to knock in the great shots, make the sizable breaks, and when it's not happening, the pressure does build.
Well, if there's any members of the audience here tonight who attended that 2001 Thailand Masters final when Doherty played so well to beat Hendry 9-5, those members of the audience might well think these two are imposters. Particularly Ken, who was all over the place.
He's actually very inconsistent with the way he's addressing the cue ball. Usually it's 5 to 6 times that the cue up to the white before finally striking it. At the moment, it varies between 3 and 6. There's no consistency there at all, and that's one of Hendry's key strengths. He usually follows the same routine every shot. It's the cue ball with the same pace, just basically goes up and down the white. A consistent tempo as he walks around the table. But both players at the moment are completely lost. Doherty looks under real pressure at the moment, Phil.
Yes, well, when you're used to producing a certain standard, then you find you're producing an appreciably lower standard. It can be a shock. Mitigating circumstances, of course. As we've repeated, this is the first tournament of the season after a lengthy summer break. But even with a lack of competition, Doherty's form in particular is very surprising.
Well, Hendry really went for it with that shot, right to centre pocket. A very brave shot to take on. Only 45 points ahead, so plenty on the table for Doherty, but maybe Hendry was thinking to himself, oh, I know Doherty's struggling. I can afford to go for this one. We'll soon find out whether he was right to take that risk.
One.
Keeping the rest on the table. Now that would suggest that Doherty, with the aid of an extension, is going to try and clip the pink in. That would free the pocket for the red that's near the pink. The only problem with that shot, no control whatsoever over the cue ball.
Eight.
Now you'll see him try and pop the pink off this red.
9.
Just about wobbled and fell in.
Woefully short of pace on the red to left corner here.
15.
Everything is a massive struggle for Doherty.
Yes.
You almost get the impression that his cue arm is really tight at the moment. It hasn't loosened up at all.
Sixteen.
Cardinals in there.
Doherty.
Assumed the green was in. concentrated entirely on the positional aspect of the shot.
One.
One other thing could possibly explain the poor form being shown by both players, particularly Doherty, would be jet lag maybe. At this time of year, Thailand is 6 hours ahead of Great Britain, and local
Three.
time is now fast approaching midnight.
Four.
I think it's fair to say that when you do go out there, it does mess you up for a few days, doesn't it? The first time I went out there, I was dizzy for the first 3 days. I couldn't work out where I was. But these players have been going to Thailand for so many years now. They'll be well used to that. Right, I can't believe what I'm seeing. You know, we praise them when they're playing well,
Defend Hendry.
but
4.
at the moment, both of them are in a terrible state.
Well, Hendry made the 53 break to open this frame. That apart, it's been shocking. That's a bit of safety from Hendry, who knows he has to mind his P's and Q's, especially with the colours being placed very advantageously for a possible clearance. Now the red is stopped close to the top pocket, as you can see, but this is by no means a gimme, especially with the cue ball so close to the baulk rail.
One.
After all the straightforward ones missed, that was well cued.
Which is the strange thing about it. You know, they can play a terrible shot and then an absolutely superb shot. And a minute later.
7.
So Hendry now 40 points ahead, still at the table. It's going to be a 2-frame-to-0 lead.
Nine.
Another terrible mistake, although it won't cost him.
Defend Hendry.
Hendry 2 up
9.
with a possible
And
3
a
frames to play, but he'll glean no satisfaction from the way he's played so far.
Third frame. Defend Hendry to break.
Thanks for joining us once more for this World Champions versus Asian Stars Challenge in Bangkok. This is Hendry's first match. He's playing Ken Doherty. Hendry leads 2-0. But I think it's best to draw a veil over what's happened so far. Both players well below their best. The only contribution of note, a run of 53 from Hendry. But in this match, mistakes have far outweighed the highlights.
โทษนะครับ อย่าเพิ่งลุกนะครับ
You get the impression, Mark, that Hendry will just want to win this frame, get a 3-0 win under his belt, which on paper would be a fine result, and then get on the practice table.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, it would be almost amazing to win this match 3-0 playing like he has against Ken Doherty. I mean, the only reason if he does run out of 3-0 win it, 3-1 or 3-2, will be because Doherty, his worst has been far worse than Hendry's. They both really need to take a good look at themselves after this match. It is the problem, Phil, isn't it? We're taking that summer break.
I think it's important, though, for Hendry to get away from the game. No one has practiced harder than him. Ever since the days when he dreamt about being the king of the game as a schoolboy.
9.
He always says he still thoroughly enjoys competing, but he finds practice drudgery.
Yeah, I can understand where he's coming from. It is hard work motivating yourself going in hour after hour, especially when I don't think anyone's had the success that Hendry's had. But to win a tournament and then go back in 2 or 3 days later and put another 6-7 hours in on your own with your practice partner and do the same thing day after day, it can get to you. I can totally understand where he's coming from.
He still does that during the season because he's so dedicated, but were he to play under that regime for 12 months a year, I think you'd find him becoming more and more resentful of the game, more and more turned off by it, and therefore it would be counterproductive.
24.
I think the only trouble is that his game has been conditioned around those kind of hours, that kind of routine. And that was one of the many
25.
reasons that he achieved such success. He was prepared to put the work in when other players weren't. So he got to the very, very top of the game. If you start easing back and just start putting less and less practice, obviously your peak form is going to drop. Now, if he can handle that and accept it, that's all fair and well. But if not, he's going to get very, very frustrated with himself.
28. 29.
Looks to have a reasonable angle on the green. Trying to take the cue ball off the side cushion into the bunch. Now this is more like it.
32.
That was a classic Hendry shot. Struck it extremely well. Made perfect contact.
Thirty-three.
This time into the pack of reds. He's got a large target to aim for as well. But didn't really hit as intended. He wanted to screw back into the pack. Get the
40.
keeper on the left-hand side of the table. But he stunned into them. And doesn't appear to be on the red.
Well, certainly not a straightforward one. He's got the thin cut red to the bottom left-hand pocket as we look. Also one to the green pocket. Both very testing. Didn't threaten the jaws.
Hendry, 40.
So a break of 53 in the second frame. The third begins with a run of 40. And considering how Doherty has been playing, or misfiring, it's going to be a long way back from here.
1.
What tends to happen when you're struggling? You play a fairly decent shot like that and you get caught in between. Isn't ideal on the yellow, the blue or the green really. It's forced to take the green here with the rest, which makes it more difficult again. And once you're out of position, it's always very difficult to get back into position.
Five.
That's a great recovery shot. I should say recovery pot, because once again has an ideal position on the cullet.
Last
11.
season was a real disappointment for Ken Doherty.
Well,
He reached the semi-finals of 3 world ranking events, the LG Cup, the Irish Masters and the Players' Championship, but also several early exits from world ranking events, most notably the World Championship, where he was beaten in the first round by Joe Swale from
17.
Northern Ireland.
Ken Doherty, 17.
He was checking the table as he walked away and he didn't look too happy. I just wonder whether he's left Hendry this red. Certainly has.
1.
He's making Hendry's job very easy, Phil, today. Hendry isn't on top of his game, but at least he's getting table time. We were talking about practice. Obviously, the more practice you're getting at the table, the better you're going to be. Doherty, for the majority of this match, has been sat in his chair watching. Still not too sure how he's queuing.
Nine.
Well, we might not get another chance to find out. Hendry 32 points in front, on the verge of victory. Well, Mark, he's got nobody to blame but himself. And this match ball,
23.
Hendry 46 in front, 51 on the table.
24.
That equation is now 47 in front, 43 left. No way back from here.
$29. Stephen, 29.
Well, Doherty continuing, but hard to imagine how he could possibly wriggle free of this straitjacket.
1.
After potting this black, he'll want to keep the last red on the table, because that would give him the chance of a free ball and a further 8 points.
8.
He's got a fairly large target in behind the yellow. And
Ken Doherty, 8.
But misjudged it off in distance. He's going to be so annoyed with his performance in this match.
Well, if Hendry can get through to see the red, this should be it.
One. Six. Eight.
Well, Hendry's going to win 3-0. That means he goes to the top of the group. But he'll
11.
find it hard to be enthusiastic about this performance.
It was
sketchy to say the least, but sketchy is better than woeful. Hendry 3, Doherty 0.
So all of the opening matches are complete, and in Group A, Junhui and John Higgins off the mark and sitting pretty in first and second spot. Group winner. The setting for this match for the second year running is Thailand and the BEC Tero in Bangkok. We join the match between Stephen Hendry and Atthasit Mahitthi. With the opening frame already underway, it's commentary from Mark Johnston-Allen and Phil Yates.
Stephen Hendry, the 7 times world champion, escaping from a not too difficult snooker. Mahitthi has just spotted the one red. And although this is a group match, it's effectively straight knockout because the winner will go through. The loser would have a second chance of reaching the semi-finals in each closing group match. And seeing this, you know, I can't help but think back to 10 years ago in the Thailand Open at the Imperial Queen's Park Hotel. Not too far from here, when Stephen Hendry, then very much in his prime, arrived for that world ranking event and was beaten by a wild card entry, Thai Pishit from Thailand, who at the time was still an amateur, albeit a very good one. On that occasion, Thai Pishit was shaven-headed. He just spent a month or so in a Buddhist monastery. Still ranks as one of the greatest shocks in snooker history, that. Right up there with Tony Knowles' 10-1 victory over Steve Davis when Davis was defending the world title back in 1982.
Certainly a great occasion for Mahitthi. Take on the very best in the game, the greatest player the game has ever seen. Interesting to see how he not only copes with the pressure of playing Hendry, Phil, but how he copes with the pressure of all the people that have turned up to watch him tonight. He was very calm and relaxed in his first match against Marco Fu. Good red there from Hendry.
Yes, there were glimpses of something special from Hendry. In his 3-0 victory over Ken Doherty, he made breaks of 53 and 40. For the most part, though, he was well below his best. Mahitthi also comes into this match on the back of a 3-0 win. That was over Marco Fu. A really good performance, capped off by a 32 clearance to win the third frame on the black.
$14. $700. 14.
Well, that was an inexcusable miss. Anytime you just graze the near jaw of these middle pockets, especially at that pace, the ball will not drop.
One.
Very nicely cued shot from Mahitthi, but he's left himself with a tough choice here. There may be one red available on the right-hand side of the pack there that does go into either the corner or the centre pocket. If he doesn't fancy that, however, he's going to have to think about going into the reds, but that in itself is such a tough shot where the cue ball is. So he's played for the red to corner. Has he found position?
8. Nine.
Well, he found position on the red, but he hasn't found position on the blue here.
Bravo. Atthasit. 9.
Wasn't a particularly good safety shot there from Mahitthi. He's basically given Hendry a free shot here. He's under no pressure. Every chance to put Mahitthi in behind the brown. But he has misjudged that by some distance.
I think the key for Mahitthi in this particular match is try and keep Hendry as tight as possible. The Scot does have a tendency to become a little over-ambitious when he's not scoring freely. If that's the case, he might well give scoring opportunities to the man at the table. Basically, it's a matter of biding your time.
Well, Mahitthi certainly doesn't look as relaxed in this match as he did in the match against Marco Fu. He's rather tense out there at the moment. You can visibly see he's breathing heavily.
well, reputation's a massive thing, and no one's got a bigger reputation than Hendry. He's been around a while, Mahitthi, but playing Hendry in a televised tournament for big stakes, that's a whole new experience, and that will calm those nerves down. Nicely judged plant.
Yeah, it was a good shot. He had the bonus of making the cannon on the red and getting himself positioned on the black, and it's just what he needs in the opening frame. Well, deciding to take the blue. He wants good position on the red here.
Six. Seven.
And now, after 4 pots, a position of considerable promise.
Fifteen. Twenty-two. 23.
Yeah, he certainly doesn't hang around when he's around the black spot.
30.
He's another one of these confidence players. He needs to deliberately get himself into a rhythm. You just check and see if the red directly below the pink went to corner it. From that angle it doesn't appear so taking the one below it.
31. Thirty-nine.
One thing he had to do in this match to have any chance is to win the opening frame.
45.
It will settle his nerves, make Hendry realise that he's got a tough match on his hands, put a few doubts in his mind maybe.
46.
And he's making a very good job of this opener. Just working out the score, working out what he has to do to secure the first frame. It won't particularly worry Hendry if he does lose this opener, but what it will do is give Mahitthi
52.
tremendous confidence for the next.
Atthasit. 52.
Well, wobble that one, but not before making a very fluent half-century break. .48 points divides the two players. .51 on the table, but that was a country mile away. didn't really want the green to go in. But even though he's played a foul shot, Mahitthi still in relative safety. He's now 44 in front with 43 on.
Yeah, seems a strange thing to say, but he actually gained 4 points of that exchange. The reason I'm saying that is by taking the red off of the table, that's a possible 8 points that Hendry couldn't score. I know that he lost the 4 points by giving the other 4 the in-off away, but overall he'll be quite happy about that.
The red has been stuck over the middle pocket. 1-0 to the outsider.
One.
Well, it has to be said that even though he won 3-0 against Ken Doherty in his first group match, Hendry looked decidedly vulnerable. In the first frame here, Mahitthi has jumped on that vulnerability to jump out in front.
Seven. Nine. Well.
It's always a very special occasion when you're taking the frame off a 7-time world champion. And he'll be feeling very proud of himself in the opener of this match. A lot of support here for him. They'll be delighted.
21.
And Phil, we got a match on our hands.
Absolutely, Mark. Already the architect of a shock result, beating Marco Fu in his opening group match. Now he takes a 1-0 lead over Stephen Hendry, 1/3 of the way to a place in the knockout phase. Welcome back to Bangkok and the World Champions versus Asian Stars Challenge. There's an Asian star. Atthasit Mahitthi is the name. He's already beaten Marco Fu 3-0. In his second Group B match, he's 1-0 ahead of Stephen Hendry. And while it might be a little premature to start talking about shock results, Hendry will know the importance of getting this one under his belt.
It's always a good sign when you see a newcomer and they're up against the established pros. You can tell within the first 5 or 10 minutes whether they're going to put anything off. They look confident. And this man does. He looks like he's there to win the match. He's not there to make the numbers up.
Good pot. No reward.
Green ball. Wow, another. Atthasit. Four.
After a short amount of deliberation, Mahitthi decides to have the cue ball replaced. Perfectly understandable choice of shot. Hendry just can't see a ball directly.
Wow, Atthasit, go.
Well, on the logic of the first one, this one has to be put back as well.
Absolutely. You know, you can't have Hendry gaining an advantage from making a mistake, if you like. So even though it looks like quite a cruel ball, missing it by probably less than a millimetre, that's the way they've interpreted it. I mean, really should be hitting the screen, shouldn't he? The only danger is he could snooker Mahitthi if he does it. Right. It's always the risk, isn't it?
Well, that was worth a couple of dry runs, if you like, just to get it right the third time. At this stage of the frame, giving away 8 penalty points, neither here nor there. But laying a telling snooker certainly is. And from that escape, Mahitthi could not have wished for anything better.
Well, a very brave effort there from Hendry, committed himself 100%. Knew pretty much that if he missed it, he'd leave the red up. So I think he has. Just pulling over to the left there.
Yes, I thought that, Mark. Well, that's pretty much Hendry's modus operandi these days. Doesn't compromise his game, always tries to be attacking. Sometimes, in my book, a little too much so.
I suppose he changed the game when he burst on the scene all those years ago, didn't he? For the long pots he was taking on, where other players would take a long pot on and run for cover. Hendry would just take the long pot on 100%, and if he missed it, well, he knew he was going to leave his opponent up. He was so brave. But after a while, all the other players cottoned on and realised they had to do exactly the same, and it did change the shape of the game as we know it. Well, Mahitthi has just let Hendry off. An incredible style there. It was a strange shot he played all round, actually. It was almost as if he didn't really know what he was doing. A long way out with the blue. I'm not sure what he was intending to do on the positional side of the shot.
Well, when he missed the blue, he got away with it. Ditto there. Over the last couple of shots, he's led a charmed life.
plays a massive part in this game. Before Mahitthi played a bad shot, got away with it. And look at the result. Comes back to the table with a chance for a pot.
This time, bad luck for Mahitthi. Swinging the cue ball around off 2 cushions. He thought he would be certain to be on the blue. The only place he couldn't be was in that pocket. And Hendry immediately takes the opportunity to split the pack.
Didn't look very happy with the result. I'm presuming he could still knock the blue into the centre pocket as Mahitthi looks on thinking to himself, I should still be at the table. Oh, that's touch and go. You're shaking your head, Phil. You don't think he can?
I don't think he will. The white will go close to the jaws of the baulk pocket as well. Yes, so thin in fact, he didn't make any contact at all. And what's more, Mahitthi now right in amongst them. Well, Mahitthi made a 69 break in the second frame of his victory over Marco Fu, first time out. He made a 52 in the first frame of this match. And you fancy him to make a few here.
Nice.
Well, full credit to him. A risky shot to play. He basically had to make sure that he landed on the ready-made contact with. Otherwise, you would have been playing safe, but it worked out fine. And what wonders this will do for his confidence if he does defeat Stephen Hendry as he goes into the new season and the qualifying school. Thinking to himself, I just defeated the 7-time world champion. Doesn't look too impressed at the moment.
One thing that is quite interesting is that this match began at 5 o'clock local time. 5 o'clock in the afternoon, that is. Which means that it will finish well in time for the first edition of the Thai newspapers. And if their man does prevail, that will be big news.
When you say big news, Phil, will it make the back page?
Very much so, yes. 2 English language newspapers in Bangkok, in fact. The Bangkok Post and The Nation.
He can be assured of stardom overnight.
Yes, I think the Thai snooker aficionados already know about Atthasit Mahitthi. A win over Hendry today would bring his name to a wider audience.
Mahitthi is getting stronger and stronger. Starting to control the table. Absolutely nothing you can do when you're sat in your chair watching. And Hendry has spent a fair chunk of this match in his chair as this man goes about his business.
Well, that's 2 frames, 2 half centuries.
I wonder how much inspiration he's drawn from his fellow countryman James Wattana. He certainly must have been a role model as Mahitthi was growing up.
Well, when they're on the pro circuit, all of the Thai players congregate in Wellingborough, Northamptonshire. They all practice together, so Mahitthi knows James Wattana well. Wouldn't exactly call Wattana a father figure, but he's certainly been very influential in this new crop of Thai snooker talent. Well, that's a bad miss, but it's come too late to save Stephen Hendry. What a shocking prospect. Atthasit Mahitthi leads 2-0.
Welcome back to the Group A match between Stephen Hendry and Atthasit Mahitthi. Mahitthi leads by 2 frames to 0 in this best of 5 match. We rejoin the action in frame 3 with commentators Mark Johnston-Allen and Phil Yates.
Williams squandered chances in frame 3, and it all turned around. But the way he's playing, it's hard to imagine that Henry can bring about a revival.
Well, Mahithi's looking at the red into that left corner pocket. Well, he's a little bit shaky over the last 4 or 5 minutes.
Well, let's not underestimate what victory over Hendry would mean. Apart from everything else, good prize money here if you get to the semi-finals. Not that prize money's really an issue for Stephen Hendry, having amassed over 7.5 million in total career earnings.
I think fair to say though, Phil, if Mahitthi makes the semi-finals, he'll be at least guaranteeing his biggest payday, wouldn't he?
Definitely.
Hendry intending to play the snooker in behind the green. He made contact with the green, so no problem there. But he'll be disappointed he hasn't put Mahitthi under any pressure.
And when the balls run awkwardly like this, even when Stephen Hendry is playing well, even when he's in the middle of the season, he tends to lose patience and he loses an a lot of scrappy frames. Yes, all of this tactical stuff, not his cup of tea. Likes to be in amongst the balls, scoring fluently.
Well, because break building is his strongest suit, he gets frustrated in this kind of situation. He can take on all comers, can he, as soon as there's an open table and a break there to be made. Mahitthi, I'm fairly sure, would be quite happy in this frame if he could just take 15 run away, and just amass a steady lead. I can't see him doing anything too dramatic. Well, green's the target here, but he'll settle for that.
Another indication here that Hendry is not cueing sweetly. When you're missing fine edges like that, it points to one of two things. A, you're not aligning yourself with the shot correctly, or B, you're flicking a little bit of side onto the cue ball, and that's why it's not making contact. Either one of the two can be costly, but that wasn't the best from Mahitthi.
One. Six.
It's just the kind of shot you never expect Hendry to miss.
And certainly not by that distance.
You just saw on the replay there, he's grabbing the cue right at the very end, and that's a sign that he's not completely sure as to what he's doing at the moment. He doesn't feel 100% comfortable. As Phil mentioned earlier, that purely is lack of practice.
Yes, just to give you some kind of time scale, he was beaten in the semi-finals of the World Championship. Hammered, in fact, 17-4 by Ronnie O'Sullivan. That was in the last week in April, first couple of days in May. Here we are right at the start of August. Hendry hasn't played in the intervening weeks.
How long has he had off in total, Phil? Do you know?
Well, it's the entire 3 months.
He has not picked a cue up for 3 months. Well, you need at least a month before you find any sort of groove. any sort of feeling back into your Q arm. So no wonder Hendry's struggling.
They say that snooker is rather like riding a bike. Once you know how to do it, it's there forevermore. Well, that might be the case, but if you haven't ridden a bike for 10 years or so and you get back on one, you're a little wobbly at the start.
No, absolutely right. And that will give you, what the people are saying there is that, yeah, you'll get to a certain standard in no time at all, which is right. Hendry could go to the practice table tonight, tomorrow, and probably make a century break, obviously. But it's finding that extra 2 or 3%. And that takes a good few months of practice. And what he's practicing now, when he starts practicing, he's practicing for what's going to happen in 3 months' time. That's when he'll reap the reward. So I think Hendry's leaving it rather late this season, but obviously he knows his game best. We mentioned earlier about the motivation behind practicing day in, day out, and how he's struggling with that. So be interesting to see how he gets off to a good, or whether he gets off to a good start this season.
Well, maybe we shouldn't be writing him off in this one just yet. Little bit of movement in the back arm. And the sitter goes astray.
One. One.
Well, so far in this tournament, we've seen Junhui look pretty sharp. Mark Williams not too bad, even though Ding beat him 3-2 in their first group match. John Higgins was B+ standard in beating James Wattana 3-1. And Mahitthi, well, he would have gained a lot of encouragement from the way he dispatched Marco Fu and the way he's played so far in this match. But Ken Doherty and Stephen Hendry, their report cards would read, D must try harder.
One.
Yeah, that was a far better pop than it looked. Hendry looking on anxiously. Knows this one is slipping away. The trouble being he doesn't seem to have any firepower at all.
8.
The red covering the black spot, so the black goes on the nearest available high spot, which happens to be the pink in this instance. And Mahitthi already 17 points ahead. Inching towards a popular victory and a place in the semi-finals.
Thirteen. Fourteen. 15.
detected a kick there, Mark. The pink definitely left the bed of the table.
20.
Well, he's only got himself to beat now, Phil, hasn't he? And they're all there.
21.
Well, unbelievable. That should have sailed into the pocket. And then
28.
it's got the better of him there. I'm very, very surprised that black dropped.
He now knows his fate. At least with this group format, Hendry has the opportunity to redeem himself.
29.
That will come against Marco Fu. This match, though, has gone west. Or should we say, considering the venue, it's gone east.
36.
Hendry, 45 behind, 43 on the table. Surely no way back from this. One snooker needed. And that shot just about sums up the match for him.
Yeah, it's a good performance from Mahitthi, but we've got to put it in perspective, Phil, haven't we? If Hendry was at his best, I'm not sure the result would have been quite the same.
Well, after that extraordinary error, just a glimmer for Hendry. But even that has been extinguished now for sure. What a turn-up. Atthasit Mahitthi, the world number 86, and the lowest ranked player in this tournament, by some way, is going to be the first player through to the knockout phase.
Eight.
Hendry will not bother to continue. He's been beaten 3-0 by Atthasit Mahitthi, the local hero gaining in notoriety.